So envelope 1 is being used for the amp, envelope 2 is being used for our modulations, and we have envelope 3 here that we're not using for anything yet, so let's do something fun with it. We're going to block off 4 modulation lanes in the matrix, and we're going to put envelope 3 as the source, and for the destinations, we're going to select the coarse pitch of oscillator A, the coarse pitch of oscillator B, and then again, A coarse pitch, B coarse pitch. The last two, we're going to invert the modulation direction. So just make it look like the screen here. Next, we'll set up an auxiliary source for all 4 of these lanes, and it'll be macro 3. Move the amount of the first 2 modulations to 9, and then move the amount for the 3rd and 4th modulation to -9. We're going to have to come back later and fix these, but we'll get them in the ballpark right now. So as you can imagine, because we're applying a modulation to the coarse pitch of our synthesizer, we probably won't want it happening all the time. We probably won't want it happening very much of the time at all, and we certainly don't want it happening by accident. So just like we did in the previous video with the envelope LFO control, we're going to use these modulation curves to make it so that when macro 3 is in the middle, nothing is happening, and it's not until you get towards the edges that the modulation actually starts to dial in. So now we're going to go back and adjust the amount sliders, and this part's a little annoying because so far with Serum, you can't reliably type in a number and expect that to reach a perfect octave when you're modulating the coarse pitch. You're going to hear in a second how I can be dragging on the amount of a modulation and the sound changes, but the number doesn't change. So the only thing we can really do here is use our ear and try to move the slider 1 pixel at a time until our modulation reaches a nice octave. I'll rename that 3rd macro now. Call it something to the effect of pitch. It's a pitch envelope. And finally, we'll want to configure some of these things to our VST window. So first I'll make sure macro 3 is configured, and then after that I'm going to go over to envelope 3 and configure the attack, decay, and sustain of my pitch envelope. Go back out to Ableton's instrument rack, and I'm going to map that pitch macro to my 5th macro in the instrument rack, map the envelope 3 attack to the 6th macro, map the pitch envelope's decay to the 7th macro, and finally map the pitch envelope's sustain to the 8th and final macro of my instrument rack in Ableton. And then name all these macros appropriately. Using an envelope to control the pitch in this way is going to let you do some things that you can't do just with a pitch wheel. And besides, lots of the stuff you hear on the radio these days is coming from people using pitch envelopes on their synth sounds. Plus, pitch envelopes are just plain and simple one of the most fun things in the whole world to play with, and sometimes they can give you sounds that you didn't really see coming. So I'm going to map these 8 macros to my MIDI controller now, and I'm going to play with this preset a little bit. And this concludes the series. Thank you for tuning in. This has been Optimizing Serum for Live Performance. My name is James Anderson. I'm very excited to be on the exclusive platform. And best wishes to everyone.